Hi, I'm Edwin Samuelson, and welcome to CineFiles, your weekly film fix, a.k.a. the show that allows you to eavesdrop on the conversation of fellow film fanatics. Today, we're going to be discussing John Hughes Part 2. We're going to continue where we left off last week with She's Having a Baby. But before again, let me introduce my panel. To my left, Eric Cohen. To his left, Jeff Galashaw. And to his left, Michael Fultz.
Oh boy, John Hughes, a second episode. Whoa.
I guarantee this will be the least watched show on YouTube.
I agree, too. I am Darth Nihilus. All right.
I'm sorry, Jeff.
All right. Well, let's continue, Jeff. We were talking about last time on our show, we discussed all the films from National Lampoons Class Reunion onto She's Having a Baby. So let's continue with She's Having a Baby. You had some interesting comments about it. Kevin Bacon and Elizabeth McGovern play a newlywed couple who are expecting their first child. And
I could go for some bacon now.
Go for it.
No, the movie is actually a pretty good, I guess, since he was famously quoted as from one of his films where one of the characters said, once you turn 30, your heart dies. So this was one of his first movies where the main characters were actually over 30. And it had a young appearance of Alec Baldwin as Kevin Bacon's best friend / Lothario womanizer pal. And he was seeing how easy Alec Baldwin's life was compared to how his life was, with all these worries about the future and having kids or not to have kids, working. And I just thought the film, it was an interesting film, but I can't really remember it much because I watched it maybe the last time 7 years ago, and I haven't seen it since.
Well, the two things that I remember it, more than two things. I mean, Alec Baldwin, I thought,
It's very good.
He gave a great performance. His surreal daydreams. He would have these little daydreams, like almost like the Busby Berkeley musicals with the mowing the lawn and people. He would have these like little daydreams as his mind was wandering about what it was like to be in the suburbs and getting older and being a father and so on and so forth, and which is very John Hughes-esque. Also, he was talking to his neighbor, and he said that he was going to, Kevin Bacon's character was going to write a book. And he said that his neighbor replied, yeah, I was going to write a book as well. I built 3 birdhouses, and he talked about all these arts and crafts projects that he did, and he did everything within a year and a half except write his book. I thought that was really interesting. I thought that was definitely something that John Hughes, as a screenwriter, lent to this, this screenplay. And that really resonated.
All I remember is a Kate Bush song.
I remember. It reminds me of a John Hughes doing like a '50s style movie, kind of like a Bringing Up Baby type thing. That's what I would say it's closest to in his respect. It's very different coming from John Hughes because he deals with a midlife crisis instead of teenagers or.
No leopard though in this one.
No. Well, that's
Angelica Houston either.
No Angelica Houston either. That's an inside joke. Please see show 1. All right. The next film he did was The Great Outdoors, which starred, of course, his favorite leading man, John Candy, and this time Dan Aykroyd makes an appearance as the co-star. And let's not forget an early appearance by, and I believe her first role is Annette Bening, actually. Now, this is the film which actually is so funny. When I first saw the film, I thought the roles would be reversed because I thought John Candy would play the annoying, neighbor or whatever. Mm-hmm. But in fact, it kind of reminded me of that movie Neighbors, where John Belushi and Dan Aykroyd.
A much better film.
Really?
Oh, yes. Much better film. Classic
let's not
comedy.
compare Great Outdoors to Neighbors.
Yeah, come on now.
They're very much alike.
Come on now.
In similar respect. They are
Move on.
similar.
Come on now.
They're similar.
Please.
You don't love the scenes with him eating the old 96er?
That's a good scene. Actually, that's a very good scene. But The Simpsons did it better, though.
I do remember they did a little homage to that.
Yeah, they did, where Homer challenged a trucker to a steak eating contest, and the trucker won, but he died. So Homer decided to, go on, take the trucker's truck and like make all his deliveries or whatever.
I don't know. I just don't care about this film. The only thing that's actually memorable to me about Great Outdoors is that the final credit sequence, where Dan Aykroyd's out there dancing with John Candy's wife, and all I could think of was like, why?
Actually, the old 96er, that's the only thing I can remember of that film. I
That was
can't
a fair-
remember
that was
The
the
whole
only-
thing with the bear.
Or wait, what about another
Yeah.
another
See
spin
the
cycle?
Oh,
that-
yeah,
yes.
because she was getting an orgasm with,
Or I love another thing too, where after John Candy
washer.
eats the entire 96er, which is this giant steak, if he eats the whole thing, he can get a meal for everybody for free. is where there's a
But it's like a variation of Vacation. It's like John Candy's like sort of like a Chevy Chase character, and Dan Aykroyd's sort of like the Randy Quaid character.
I felt this was a
It's
lazy
sort of an
script. Actually,
elaboration on that.
of all the movies though that John Hughes has written, I would say this is probably the one where I really felt he just cranked it out. You know, it had some very funny scenes. I was even with the '96ers really funny, but the rest of the movie just
More often than not, John Candy is a much, much, much better character actor than he is a leading man.
I can agree with you on that in that respect. Well, let's go on to our next film again, which actually reunites John Candy and John Hughes again together. And this is one of the most successful films he did again. Actually, it inspired another TV series. The film is Uncle Buck, which also stars a very, very young Macaulay Culkin, who would actually go on to star in Home Alone because of this film. Uncle Buck actually has a very, very likable performance by John Candy. In fact, I think it's one of his best films in the John Hughes universe. I mean, his performance is, not the movie itself. The movie is cliche 101.
Very, very disappointing.
It feels a lot like that Cheaper by the Dozen film we were talking about with Steve Martin.
Yeah.
But see, this is also a reason why maybe John Hughes decided to retire sort of when he did, because as you notice, the quality of his early works were great, but then as we get later, everything starts becoming cliche-ridden. You start forgetting certain things. You know, you start forgetting the movies almost because they start all running together, or you get a case of we've been here, done that.
I think he just became lazy and rested on his laurels and started recycling. And I think at a certain point, maybe you can't blame him. They can't all be Stanley Kubrick-type geniuses.
It's sad because, I mean, John Candy's really good in the movie, but it's just cliche 101. It's what I call one of those concept movies. It's like, okay, let's get a guy who's fat, out of shape, and let's let him take over and watch these people, these children, and let's see the mischief that happens.
Well, from this point on, I mean, he does Curly Sue, right?
That's one of his
And
next
he does,
films.
what was the other one, Dutch?
Dutch.
The Home Alone sequels, and they all pretty much kind of follow the same formula. What happened to John Hughes? I mean, is he completely retired from the
He's
scene?
retired from the industry.
He's
He's
developing anything?
He's actually had a couple of films that were released that he written, but they were written many, many years ago. And in fact, they were released under a pseudonym under the name Edwin Dantes, which I think you know that name from Treasure Sierra Madre. One of the films was Made in Manhattan with Jennifer Lopez.
Dantes is from the
Count of
Monte
Monte
Count of
Cristo.
Monte Cristo. I'm so sorry. Count of Monte Cristo.
Edwin.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Hey, I forgot.
Monte Cristo? What?
Nah, never mind. You know.
Well, okay. Well, another thing I feel is maybe as he got older, like you said, he got lazier. But also, you have to keep in mind, we're naming all these films, but you have to keep in mind this was over a span of maybe like 5 to 6 years that he wrote all of these.
Well, he probably got burned out.
burning them
Exactly.
out.
He started getting burned out. So you know, after a while,
He probably had his deal with the studio. Was it the same studio releasing these films?
Most of them was Universal and Fox.
Okay, so he probably had some sort of deal. Some sort
Exactly.
Of,
I mean, he was cranking them out. I mean, we got to give the devil his due, but yeah, I mean, you look at it and they get more tired and more tired, and then he had the bit of the. Although with Uncle Buck, there was 2 funny scenes in there. Well, there was one funny scene, and one scene I couldn't figure out what the hell was going on, where he had to make the giant pancake. Couldn't figure that one out.
Like the clown.
But him and the Q&A with Macaulay Culkin about him being single or whatever, the rat-a-tat-tat, almost the Dashiell Hammett style of questioning and stuff, that was very funny.
And you know, that's one thing. I got to give Macaulay Culkin is actually very charming and very good in the movie with the little kid, you know, interviewing people through the mailbox. And John Hughes said after he saw him in that, he wrote the movie Home Alone for him, which I guess could be a good segue into Home Alone. Home Alone, and this was definitely his most successful film. In fact,
That was his swan song, I guess.
I could say, yeah, that is his swan song. It was the last really funny movie he made. I remember seeing it with my childhood friend I told you about who died, unfortunately. We went to see it as a sneak preview a week before it opened. I wanted to see Night of the Living Dead, but his mom said no way, so we went and saw the sneak preview of Home Alone, and I really didn't want to see it, but I will admit, I saw it with an entire audience, and I laughed my ass off.
Funny story, I was supposed to see Mel Gibson's Hamlet for a college class, and I took a date to it, and we sat in the theater, and we kept looking at our watches, like, why isn't it starting, why isn't it starting? Then it finally started up, and I saw Catherine O'Hara, and I was like, this is not Mel Gibson's Hamlet. And then we both really enjoyed the movie.
The only time I've seen a film from beginning to end is around when it first came out, and I was wicked high off LSD when I saw it.
All right.
The only time I did acid was when I saw this film. And throughout the entire film, all I could think about was, this is John Hughes' Straw Dogs.
It really is when you think about it in that respect. It's pretty creepy when you think about this kid is trying to defend himself against two guys trying to break his house.
Film.
But at that time, Macaulay Culkin was still taller than Dustin Hoffman.
Let's not forget.
Okay,
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. That was
See
a
what
cough.
you did, Newell?
No, it's just lame. But no, let's give some credit. Home Alone is a very charming little film. It reminds me a lot of, I guess, in some respects, of Christmas Story in terms of the childlike wonder. And let's not forget about the great supporting performances by Captain O'Hara, who's wonderful, Captain O'Hara, and of course Joe Pesci, who actually that was the one of 2 films that year that made him into a really big star. The other one was Goodfellas. He's absolutely wonderful in the movie.
Daniel Stern.
And Daniel Stern is terrific. They're both great.
John Savage.
John Hurt.
John Hurt.
John Hurt. I'm sorry.
John Hurt.
Got those guys screwed
John
up.
Candy yet again.
John Candy makes a little cameo.
They're the same.
Kinda.
Same people.
But I think this is one of his. I think it would be his last really good film. I actually have to say, of all the John Hughes films, the one that actually I really.
Did he
enjoyed.
direct the first one, or was that Columbus?
Chris Columbus directed all of
He
them.
just wrote this one.
Well, the first
produced
2.
it.
You know what's funny is on that thing, all of a sudden, Chris Columbus became like the director for a while. It's like, what? All he did was direct a John Hughes film.
Yeah, I used to confuse Chris Columbus with John Hughes.
Well,
Well, don't forget he also did Only the Lonely, which was another film that same year, I believe. With actually it was the next year, but it was with John Candy.
kind of a
Candy.
pathetic film. I just didn't understand
That's
it.
a very different film, though, coming from the John Hughes universe. Is that it takes a
exactly.
very somber tone. It's about a
Well,
guy.
and
It's
I
more
just-
of a dramatic role.
Yeah, it
I'm
is.
sorry,
For
but
John
I
Candy.
don't. I'm sorry, folks, but the suspension of disbelief. I love John Candy, but Ali Sheedy in real life does not fall for John Candy. I'm sorry. Okay.
I thought he did a good job of
liked
that.
it.
I
thought
didn't
he
say I
did
didn't
good.
like
Yeah,
it.
but
I'm
that's
just saying
but
it's
that's
not realistic.
the John Hughes formula. I mean, like he'll have the character, like the character's considered a loser or the geek, somehow like some kind of Wonderful, or in some way 16 Candles and Pretty in Pink. The character that in real life would not win that guy or the
And these
girl.
films are not grounded in reality.
Yeah.
Well, with Only
can't
the
it be a
Lonely,
sweet story?
they try to ground it in reality as much as possible.
And let's give credit too to the wonderful performance by not Captain O'Hara. I'm sorry, Marino Sullivan. Oh, I believe is very good.
Marino Sullivan.
And Anthony
And
Quinn.
Anthony Quinn, a very good. Actually, I love the story with the older couple. I thought that was very charming and very well done.
I did not see this film.
You should see it. It's a good movie.
Yeah, not
Rent
really.
it.
Yeah, you're all right.
John
I will.
Candy is wonderful. He
It's
is
got
absolutely
Anthony
wonderful.
Quinn in it.
It would have been a lot
Anthony
better.
Quinn in comedy.
I honestly,
Go
it's one of the
together.
few times instead of John Candy, if it was Klaus Kinski in that role, that would have been awesome.
Ah,
Fucking awesome.
I would see that in a heartbeat.
Yeah, him
Kinski
just
was.
constantly yelling at Ali Sheedy, Marino
Fuck
Sullivan.
you, I am Jesus.
Yeah.
Get them, get them.
I don't trust shoes.
All right.
Where's this show going?
What the hell is this? I
Home
think
Alone.
John,
Home Alone
it's
2
a-
should have been directed
it's
by
our-
Werner Herzog.
Everything with Klaus Kinski.
I think you guys are
John
dropping acid.
Hughes, Klaus Kinski special.
I think you guys are the ones dropping acid today, not during Home Alone.
Yes.
Yeah.
But let's get on to
helped.
another one. Dutch, which has Ed O'Neill in it.
I actually did not see this movie.
I'm very surprised you guys didn't see this.
Let's talk about Kinski.
it's-
films.
it
It didn't
it's
have
Johnny
John
Aggers.
Candy in it.
It's Ed O'Neill coming off his whatever
Married with
bizarre
Children.
Married with Children pseudo success. And
Yeah, it was a good show. I liked
It's
it.
him like dealing with a punk kid. He's
Ethan
like the
Randall.
stepdad or whatever, and gets him on this 18-wheeler and drives him across town. And at the end, this kid learns a great life lesson on how to be not a spoiled brat. But you know something? That whole film was done again with over the top.
Well, there's some funny
I
scenes
can't
there.
believe you actually saw Dutch.
I can't either. I can't believe it either. But I saw John Hughes, and it was like a Christmas day when Mom and Grandma and I were sitting around. It's like, oh, let's watch this. But seriously, it's over the top. Stallone gets his brat kid, drives cross country in the
mean
semi
O'Neill.
for the arm wrestling thing. Except Ed O'Neill doesn't arm wrestle.
I was going to say that's the only
and he
thing missing.
doesn't. And what's lacking in Dutch is he doesn't fight Robert Loggia.
The film that Mike is referencing, in case you don't know, is Over the Top with Sylvester Stallone, a wonderful piece of crap from the 80s.
Not John Hughes directed or written or produced
It
by.
could have been, though. I would have paid to see that with Klaus Kinski in the role.
I would pay to see anything with Klaus Kinski.
Oh my God!
Angelica
Right
Houston
now,
in it.
if Klaus Kinski, if we could raise him from the dead, I would love to see him pick up a child, drive cross country, and then arm wrestle in Vegas. How great is that, everybody?
I'd pay for that.
Good night.
Yeah, we can't top that.
Co-starring Vincent Gallo.
wrestle my arm.
I think we have to have a Klaus Kinski episode.
We should. We'll talk about Herzog soon. But let's get on to
No,
another film.
Kinski.
Oh, both of them.
Oh, whoa.
Both Kinski and Herzog. But let's get on to his other film, which we probably
There are more John Hughes.
Yeah, career opportunities.
Man.
Not
Yes,
named after
career
the,
opportunities.
Not named after the class.
Christ.
I told you the man wrote a lot of stuff, cranked him out.
Frank Whaley, who I love. I think he's a great actor. He's actually good in the movie,
With
but
Jennifer
the movie
Connelly.
stinks.
A hot
The
piece of
hell yeah.
ass.
Which they sold with her
Frank
cleavage.
Whaley, yeah.
He's a terrific actor.
It is such a forgettable film. It's
I have
so
a great
forgettable
Frank
that I
Whaley
can't
story.
remember if I
Please say
saw
it.
it or not.
But it would take up the entire episode.
But it does have one of the first Dermot Mulroney roles.
As the white trash dude.
Exactly.
And he's went on to superstardom.
Let's not forget John Candy again makes a
Great
cameo.
Frank Whaley story. He knows this one already.
All right,
My
that's
ex-wife and I are hanging out in our local video store, and we're going through the video. We're going through the DVDs. Who should walk in but Frank Whaley, standing right next to my wife. So I pull out a DVD. It's this film he made. It's the one where he plays like a comedian. What was the name of
The
that film?
Jimmy Show.
The Jimmy Show, right. I go, what about this one, dear? She looks at it, and she's like, why the hell would I want to see that? What the fuck? Why would I want to see that film? Frank Whaley's standing right there. I'm like,
Oh, God.
You sure you don't want to see this one, dear? She's like, no, why the fuck would I want to see that? I go, okay, fine. So I put it back on the shelf. We go over. Frank Whaley's like following us because he got his DVD same time we got ours. So we get ours. He gets his. He goes to the front door. He opens the door for my wife. My wife thanks him, walks out, sees his face, everything. We leave. We go home, turn on the TV. What should be on but Swimming with the Sharks? So my wife sits down, watches a TV show, and goes, Eric, who's that actor? I think I've seen him somewhere before. True story.
And that's why he's divorced.
Yeah. So, hey, ladies, if you're interested, he's available.
No, not really.
Oh, okay. Well, he was available. You snooze, you lose.
No, I'm available.
All right.
Okay.
all
No, I'm not available. I'm just
Don't
kidding.
let
Oh,
Sarah
that's-
see this show, you
stop it.
fuck.
No,
All right,
she
yeah.
will see the show. It'll be posted on YouTube.
Yeah, sure.
Right?
Oh,
Yes,
boy.
it will. We'll get
Right?
it on YouTube. We'll get it on YouTube.
Just like the one where you said, I'm fucking a Brit.
Oh, great.
Sarah will love that one.
Well, yeah, this is the CineFiles with the love triangles here. All right, well, career opportunities, piece of crap. Actually, I think it's one of John Hughes' worst films, but hey, different strokes for different folks. Then
What do
he
you
went
think,
on a-
Jeff?
It's not a very good film, but I mean, if you really like looking at Jennifer Connelly's cleavage, I would say.
I
Yeah,
recommend
no,
it
if
too.
you really like looking at Jennifer Connelly's cleavage, rent the hotspot. Come on.
No,
that's
actually,
just
you get
seeing
more
the
than the
whole
cleavage.
thing.
Come
That's
on.
the whole
Oh, yeah.
enchilada.
Who wants to settle for just cleavage when you can
Well,
see
maybe
the nipples?
Well, you got to keep in mind some kids, their parents might not rent that for them.
Oh,
Why
I'm
all of a
su-
sudden do you have an interest
I'm
in Don
sure-
Johnson movie?
I'm sure cleavage will sustain the 9-year-old erection.
Well, also, you
No,
get a bonus
trust
of
me.
Virginia Madsen, too, so I'd rent the hotspot if I were you. Over that.
Yeah, she's naked and falls down a sand pile.
Yep,
which
they
is
could
great.
try to show how she aborted her kid. All right, well, let's get on to the next film.
I'm totally lost.
I don't think we have any more John
Actually,
Hughes.
do.
John Hughes,
Home Alone 2.
Klaus Kinski,
Well,
the
Home Alone
hotspot.
was John Hughes' pick and paw. What would have been his
Home Alone 2.
Natural Born Killers?
Home Alone 2.
Oh,
Which is an exact remake of the first film, but set in New York and without any surprises whatsoever.
But he didn't write that one. He
Yes,
just
he did.
produced
Yes, he did. He
Wasn't
wrote that.
Home Alone 3 like the house is being attacked by Eurotrash? Was
I
that
think
like the
so.
basic premise?
Yeah,
of
but
that
it was
one?
different actors and.
Yeah, it was a girl.
Yeah, no, it was a guy.
girl.
No, it
No,
was a kid.
still a little
Oh,
boy.
it
It
was
was
a
still a
little
little
boy.
boy, but
Yeah.
Scarlett Johansson
It
was
was
in
an
the film.
androgynous child.
Yeah, the David Bowie Ziggy Stardust child.
Corky.
But let's see. After that, he. Let's not forget, he actually went on to do Dennis the Menace, which actually.
I was actually entertained by this film, believe it or not, even though it was Home Alone light. I thought Walter Matthau was fantastic.
I thought he was
as,
perfectly cast. I just thought the movie
he
stunk.
was
That's
great.
the only good thing.
I like
Other than
the film.
Christopher Lloyd.
Christopher Lloyd, oh God, is the homeless guy who farts against the fire and makes big smoke rings. Yeah,
Hey, he's
yeah.
just following the script.
I've totally
And-
zoned out of this conversation. I had
You
no
didn't
idea
see
what they were
Dennis the
talking about.
Menace?
I
You didn't like it?
John Hughes, man, just doesn't.
You didn't like it?
No,
I think he had something to do with Can't Hardly Wait, but I can't prove it.
no, he did not.
Bring me the proof.
Bring me the head of the critic who
All
gives
we
you
need
proof.
is like some punk like Eli Roth to do his John Hughes homage, you know?
I'm sure it'll be soon.
Yeah.
Edwin, I got a question for the panel.
Yeah.
Not related to John Hughes. Why can't Hollywood really make a scary film anymore?
Well, that's a different show, dude. That's completely off topic. I was talking about comedies.
Go, Total 360.
Yeah, I gotta do a
Well, why
TV
not? I
movie.
mean, we got time.
How much time do we have?
Yeah, dude.
We have some time. I don't know how much time we got.
Because we ran out of.
We ran out of John Hughes film.
Because
got
it
some
is
more.
such
Time
a
for
great
second
topic.
show.
Yeah.
There's some more. It's Mike's idea. It was Mike and Jeff's idea.
Come on, answer
you
the
wanna do a
question.
part-
Well, there is
two.
actually another John Hughes film we forgot all about. There's
That
of
none of
course,
us saw, I think. And
Flubber.
The scary
again,
movie
that
never
none of
made.
us saw.
I don't even know what else.
Flubber?
And
Oh, that
Reach
was
the
his
Rock,
film?
which none of us saw either.
Ah, Jesus Christ.
Jeff,
man.
why don't you?
Oh, and Baby's Day
Uh,
Out. You forgot about Baby's Day
That's
Out.
a John Hughes
Yes,
film?
it is. It's a John Hughes film.
Never
Adventures in
seen
Babysitting
CineFiles
John Hughes
reach
film? No.
so hard for
Chris
something.
Columbus, though. So that's why it has a similar feel to it.
Oh, all right.
So why can't they make a scary film in Hollywood anymore?
Dude, this is the
John
Hughes
Hughes would have done
comedy.
it if he were still in business. I
Yeah.
guarantee
You
it.
would have
Is
made
it
a
because
kick-ass
all
one.
the good old horror directors have been so marginalized, and the new ones just can't?
Dude, that's another show.
We got time.
No, because this is this is the John Hughes
We need
show.
a whole half hour for that topic,
Exactly.
man. I want to talk about, but it deserves. its
Edwin
time.
wants to do a whole series on Harrison Ford. I don't think I can do that.
I can't.
I
think we've talked
we could
about
do
his
a whole
best
show on
movies.
the earnest performances of Harrison Ford.
I would do one on what's his name, Jim Varney, if you want.
Oh no,
No.
because that means
How
I got
about-
to sit through his.
Well, where's our
movies.
Neil Jordan show?
Yeah.
Well, wait till he has another movie out.
He does. The
He's
We've
got
run out of,
one.
as you
Comes
can
out
tell
in 2
people
months.
here, we've run out of
a
ideas
prolific
or
director.
out of
Actually,
topics.
I don't think
John
this
Hughes,
one's going to
though.
be airing
All of a
on
sudden, the
YouTube.
fans. All of a sudden, the fans have been. You know what? Air this because now the fans can sit and listen to what our chat sessions are
I
like.
think I have, with great confidence, I could say we'll probably get more hate mail for this episode than the other one.
Well, sorry, people, we're just running out empty this week. It's been a long, long week.
No,
There
we got
wasn't
other
that much John
topics.
Hughes to talk about.
We had other topics to talk
Richard
about.
Christie is tuning out.
Yeah, Richard, we want you to call in, man. but
Edwin,
we'll do
true
it.
or false? You will air this episode.
I have to hear this episode. We need to.
All right, this is funny.
This will be the episode I
I'm
tell
glad you think
everybody
it's
to
funny.
watch.
Well, hell, I don't know. But let's talk about one thing about John Hughes.
All right, here we go. Who wants to see Transformers here?
I kind of want to see it.
I
do.
kind
I
of
kinda
want
wanna
to see it, even though I hate the
I'm scared of Michael Bay. I hate his films, but
I kind of want to see this film.
I have
you know,
to see it to properly review
There
it.
hasn't been like a decent summer blockbuster type movie so far, and that might
Die Hard, I
fit
heard,
that-
failed miserably, and
fit that need.
he saw it and he liked it.
I
But that's
liked it.
Jeff.
I just can't
What's
believe...
that supposed to mean? I am a fair viewer. And
Come on.
I am fair.
Come on.
I am fair.
Oh, we
Come
did
on.
forget about another John Hughes.
No, nobody defend me over here.
Curly Sue. We forgot about that.
No,
Yeah.
I brought.
No, we didn't want to talk
intentionally
about
forgot about that.
Haven't we brung him down low
All right,
enough?
here's a good question for the panel. Why don't we see another John Hughes come about? Why don't we see films that talk to the teen audience anymore?
Well, you know who said it, the person, and you're not going to like it. I say it's the person who says he's influenced most by John Hughes.
George
is
Bush?
Kevin Smith.
Kevin Smith.
Oh.
No,
Favorite
no, no,
person.
no. I would say the
that's-
only candidate for that is what's his name, who's done 40-year-old version and
Judd
Knocked
Apatow.
Out. Judd Apatow.
Yeah,
because
actually, you are
Freaks and
right.
Geeks.
You're right. You are very right. That's very.
I will-
Kevin
he is
Smith?
the modern. No, he's the modern day John Hughes.
Kevin Smith?
No, Judd Apatow. Fuck Kevin Smith. That guy doesn't do John Hughes films.
He
That-
did do one film that
Oh,
actually is very
come
close to a John
on.
Hughes film, and that's
I
Mallrats.
want him to explain that though.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
trying to understand
ridiculous.
Where does he come with the
We're
Kevin
now
Smith?
we're getting to be
That's what actually, if you
ridiculous.
noticed, actually that's what actually Kevin Smith said that his biggest influence was John Hughes. In fact, he got Ira Newborn, who did all the scores for the John Hughes films, to do the score for Mallrats. And Mallrats does have like that scenes in the mall, you know, kind of like they're out of like the other movies, like Weird Science and stuff, you know, with the jokes.
Except they're completely unfunny.
Actually, Mallrats is one of the only two films of Kevin Smith that I can actually watch and sit through. You know,
I had a
yeah.
friend
What was
describe
the-
watching
what was
Mallrats
the
as
other one?
watching a turd
Clerks.
float in the toilet.
Okay.
So
Clerks and Mallrats. Those are the only two films that I can watch.
Which
I can't
can be
think.
entertaining in some cultures.
if it wraps all the way around the bowl, sure.
You know, it's just,
Hey, if you package it the right way, it can be art.
this show is just smooth
Yeah, I know.
and going by.
How many more
So
minutes?
This is
Judd-
our hodgepodge
But wait a second,
show.
but wait a
And-
second though. With Judd Apatow though, I mean, you had Freaks and Geeks, but he doesn't really talk to the teen audience anymore though.
Well, he had
No, but it has that
Undeclared
sort of
also.
mentality. You know, I don't know. You're right, but they're really.
Well, it goes back to what you were saying about how, you know, the dork or the loser always gets the girl, and that is, you know, Judd Apatow's audience also.
And the thing about Judd Apatow's films is that they're never mean-spirited. You know, they're very sweet, and they have a very, you know, a good tone to them. They're never, like, you know, there's some heavy stuff going on in his movies, but they're not, you know what I'm saying? It's very
I
hard
don't
to
think
find.
we have room for a John Hughes anymore because this is going to sound corny to say, but I think we live in too cynical a time right now to have like heartfelt teen comedies come out without being completely cliche.
Mike, that's the best
Well,
point you've
we
made
have-
tonight.
Exactly.
I agree with you on that.
Well,
this is
I don't
not
know
the
about
time. I don't
the
think
best point
John
you
Hughes
made
films
tonight,
are the
but okay.
I don't think John Hughes films today would work in this climate.
I think
Kids
teens are
different.
forced to grow up too fast in this modern world that we have, and I think the innocence that John Hughes' films brought, that we experienced as well, I'm sorry, Jeff, but as we experienced as teenagers in the 80s, you don't really see that
That's true. The
anymore.
last John Hughes-like teen film was probably Clueless. What do you think about it?
That's a great point.
And that was
10
over 10 years ago.
12 years ago, 1995.
Yeah.
It's sad, you know. The other film that I think that caught teenage life better than the other one is Fast Times at Ridgemont High. I think those are some of the two that one, and I would say
I would also argue another thing that's probably diluted it is that TV came up with more original takes on, you know, like you had like the Buffy the Vampire Slayer thing.
And
you
My
know,
So-Called Life.
You had like Alias, sort of, and you had My So-Called Life. And you had all these things where they started to attack the whole, that age level, what's really going on. Things don't always have a happy ending. There's all this metaphorical stuff. And I think that kind of desensitized audiences to that whole thing.
Damn you, MTV.
Well, don't you think it's also interesting that the
I
way
have
we
no idea what
started
I'm
this
talking
discussion
about.
out on show 1 with John Hughes, as we mentioned,
Thank
that's
you.
the voice of God.
Thank you.
And she sounded asleep. But
Good
don't you
Lord,
think it's
her.
interesting that when we started this whole series out, we mentioned National Lampoon a lot, and all National Lampoon does now is, well,
Straight
Van
to
Wilder.
yeah,
cable.
garbage.
Van Wilder, The
Garbage.
Lodge of
Beyond
They
that,
were
just
a
like straight to
licensing
cable
company,
stuff,
although they
you know.
are going to come back, and they're going to start putting their
they can kiss
their
my
moniker
ass.
on better films. But
Excuse me, they
we'll
just
see.
produced a movie with Paris Hilton called Pledge This. Okay, I don't
I've
need to see
seen it.
anything. Oh my God, you've seen that?
Yeah.
Why would you watch a Paris Hilton video? I can understand maybe a one night.
I needed something to watch, so I watched that.
How about a book?
I read books, but I do that at work.
Oh my God, I can't believe you saw a Paris Hilton video.
Was she completely
I saw
nude
this
in it?
horror
No,
movie
she
with
was not
Paris
naked.
Hilton in it. It wasn't House of Wax. It was
Nine
like
Lives.
made in Britain haunted house film that
Nine.
she happened to be. It was gratuitous Paris Hilton. It was like really strange.
What
Nine
with nudity?
No,
There's no news.
it was
Why
on
don't you just rent
Chiller,
One Night in
the
Paris?
TV station. Chiller.
Oh great, I
you
just
get
got
that
the
channel?
informant that we got 30 seconds left, so let's
Holy
wrap this
crap.
up. All right,
Obviously,
quick.
this was one of our less
Best John
uninspired
Hughes film.
shows.
Best John
Best or my favorite?
Your favorite and best. We got 30 seconds
Hurry
left.
up.
So
I'd say my favorite is 16 Candles, and the best one is Ferris Bueller.
I agree. Same thing.
JFK.
With Angelica Houston in it.
all right, well, my favorite would probably be Weird Science and Plane, Trains, and Automobiles. John Hughes, you did some good films. You burned yourself out, but hey. Anyway, thanks for staying in with us with this. We know this was a tiring show.
We will do better
slog.
shows.
Wait,
I do not want credit for this one.
The next show will be better.
sorry.
Please
It's
give us
all
another
Jeff's
chance.
fault.
Yeah.
He said I could do John Hughes. I could do my favorite John Hughes impression. Wait to watch this one. This is going to be good.
I'm gonna do some editing.
Oh, come on. No, just.
That was hilarious.
Yeah, that was just.
Hi, I'm Edwin Samuelson, and welcome to CineFiles, your weekly film fix, aka the show that allows you to eavesdrop on the conversation of fellow film fanatics. Today, we're going to be discussing John Hughes Part 2. We're going to continue where we left off last week with She's Having a Baby. But before again, let me introduce my panel. To my left, Eric Cohen. To his left, Jeff Galashaw. And to his left, Michael Fultz.
Oh boy, John Hughes, a second episode. Oh.
I guarantee this will be the least watched show on YouTube.
Yeah, I agree too. I am Darth Nihilus.
First movies where the main characters were actually over 30. And it had a young appearance of Alec Baldwin as Kevin Bacon's best friend / Lothario womanizer pal. And he was seeing how easy Alec Baldwin's life was compared to how his life was, with all these worries about the future and having kids or not to have kids, working. And I just thought the film, it was an interesting film, but I can't really remember it much because I watched it maybe the last time 7 years ago, and I haven't seen it since.
Well, the two things.
All right.
I'm sorry, Jeff.
All right. Well, let's continue, Jeff. We were talking about last time on our show, we discussed all the films from National Lampoons Class Reunion onto She's Having a Baby. So let's continue with She's Having a Baby. You had some interesting comments about it. Kevin Bacon and Elizabeth McGovern play a newlywed couple who are expecting their first child. And
I could go for some bacon now.
go for it.
No, the movie is actually a pretty good, I guess, since he was famously quoted as from one of his films where one of the characters said, "Once you turn 30, your heart dies." So this was one of his.
That I remember it, well, more than two things. I mean, Alec Baldwin, I thought,
Is very good.
He gave a great
Very good.
performance. His surreal daydreams. He would have these little daydreams, like almost like the Busby Berkeley musicals with the mowing the lawn and people. He would have these like little daydreams as his mind was wandering about what it was like to be in the suburbs and getting older and being a father and so on and so forth, and which is very John Hughes-esque. Also, he was talking to his neighbor, and he said that he was going to, Kevin Bacon's character was going to write a book, and he said that his neighbor